Hey, Future Steve here. I'm editing the video that I just shot that you're hopefully, gonna watch. And just so you know, it looks like trash. I had like stuff on my camera lens. I'm bouncing between using my cell phone camera. Like I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna do this channel. But if you're willing to watch the content, thank you.
On the quest for the demon haunted world, I have two winners, two mind-blowing winners, and two books that I just couldn't get into no matter how hard I tried. I'm looking for books about demons in the world in any type of way, a philosophical way, an H.P. Lovecraft way, a literal way as in like, Berserk, Evil Dead, Doom, not like I am just obsessed with this idea because from a paranoid reader, from a parapolitical, from a anointed point of view, I think we are kind of run by demons, So I like reading about that type of stuff. The one thing I can't stand is the Scooby-Doo mask rip. A couple books I read. First of all, I read From Hell, the Alan Moore graphic novel about Jack the Ripper. It's a comic book. I don't like the term graphic novel, neither does Alan Moore. I collected comic books for a long time, and I always hated that term because I would say, people like, I'm reading a graphic novel. I'm like, yeah, but it came out as 12 comic books, and then they just bundled it and sold it for, more money. Why are we calling it a graphic novel? They actually sell it for less money. But you know what I'm trying to say. It's like, and Alan Moore was like, you're just calling it a graphic novel so you don't have to admit you read comic books. Yeah, man. It's funny. I used to not like Alan Moore. When I was younger, reading comic books in my teens and 20s, I was a Grant Morrison guy, which I won't go into it because who cares. But you kind of had to pick one of the two camps, it felt like. And I was like, Alan Moore's this old, out-of-touch fuddy-duddy that hates who can't stand anything. And so am I now. So I really resonate with that guy now. And reading From Hell was my first time reading an Alan Moore book, to be completely honest. And I loved it so much. I could talk about it for days. It's got so many layers upon it about the media, the spectacle, the murder itself, religion, British history, which I've got a lot of British coworkers, and I told them as I was reading, I was like, I never was interested in London in that macabre kind of way. And my one coworker who's from London, who's very much into British history, he said, well, mate, it's a 1,000-year-old city, longer. Of course, any city that old is going to have a lot of, dark history and deep secrets and, pre-Christian mythos. And I was like, that's a really good point. I never really thought of it that way. But From Hell was a demon-haunted book in every way. A literal demon walking the streets, terrorizing the public with motives that ranged from doing the bidding of people up here to covering up the secrets for these people here to just wanting to murder, to wanting to pull out the organs, to wanting to shape civilization. And it's got that, the final chapter or so is very deep in that way of hey, this media event shaped the way that we're doing things now. And it really, it pulled back that fourth wall at just the right time and just the right way. I have nothing but amazing things to say about this. The artwork, now I did read the remastered edition that's colored, and I've looked at photos of the original black and white versions, and the color edition is so beautiful. It is so gorgeous. The gory scenes are incredibly gory, but the day scenes are also just so lively, and it's got this way of it looks like it's scrawled on paper, but it's also defined with hard lines and such. And I love the way that the advertisements are. It almost seems like they're photoshopped in. They're perfectly set there. I don't know if they were or if they were just painstakingly recreated with, pen and ink. Another great thing about the new edition is that it's got all of this annotated sections in it where you can flip, you'll be on page 25 and, in my head, I'm like, did this really happen this way? And, I don't mind. It's fiction, but then you'll flip to the back and it'll have, excerpts from newspapers and dialogues and, the research that other people have done. And it's this was meticulously made. And that is something about Alan Moore, man. He really puts in the effort to make his comic book something. I've read some other Alan Moore comic books since then. It's got this fantastic epilogue where Alan Moore delves in it, kind of reveals the secret a little bit about why he wrote it, what he meant to say, his own commentary years later, which itself is, it's a bonus chapter, and it's made amazingly well. This was a 10 out of 10 read. I would love to have this on a bookshelf if I ever have a bookshelf. My bookshelf is this big and I don't like carrying around book. Half of this will be gone in a month. You know, it's got everything that I like. It's got government conspiracy. It's got media spectacle. It's got demons upon the earth. It's got all of it. I loved it. Couldn't say enough. Another one, Outer Dark by Cormac McCarthy. I tried to make a whole video just about this one book, and I was like, I'm probably the dumbest person in the world talking about this masterpiece of a book. Cormac McCarthy is pound for pound, page for page, word by word, probably my favorite writer that I didn't even really realize was my favorite writer. I always say it's Gary Steingart, which, well, anyway, he's in the pantheon, right? And but I need to finish the Cormac McCarthy catalog because every book that he writes is bam, stamped. Steve, you're gonna like this. We talk about demon haunted worlds. This book is the demonic world. This book is hell on earth in every way. It follows a brother and sister who have a very, very dark past, involving incest and a baby involved, and they're off doing their own thing. The sister wants to find her baby, so she's hunting down this man who she thinks took it. The brother is just wandering around this 19th century hellscape of early capitalism, early industry, begging for slave jobs, essentially. He can't even find jobs to be a slave where they pay him just food and board, let alone money. And there's all of this class consciousness, which I don't know if Cormac McCarthy really meant for it to be there, but there's all of this thing where the brother is at all time, and the sister, they're at all times at odds with the people that control the wealth. The farmers, the farmhands, the people that own the land, the people that need the labor, and they're trying to sell their labor in any way they can just to eke out to the next day. And at the same time, I mean, they are upon a land that is ravaged by storms and beasts and animals, and there is nowhere to run, there's nowhere to hide. And at the same time, there's these the chapters flip back and forth between the brother and sister. And then in the middle of those will be, every so often, there'll be this like 2-page chapter in italicized about these. It's very much like raising Arizona, where there's the biker of the apocalypse, this like no-name mythical character riding around the open road, wreaking havoc, and no one can tell if he's real or not, if he's a dream come to life, if he's life become a dream, no one can tell. These 3 figures remind me of that, where they are they're following the brother, and they're inflicting judgment upon the people that he meets. It is grim and gnarly with axes and shotguns and stuff, and there is a high body count, and just everybody that he meets is some reflection of this new world. This new capitalist 19th come 20th century industrial world that is forming. There's one section where the sister, she winds up in a city, a small town, but for her it's a city, and she has $1, and she's begging to see a doctor, and everyone keeps telling her, the doctor will see you, don't worry, he'll be here soon. And she's like, I've only got $1. If you can't see me for $1, I understand. I'll just go die. And there's just so much to talk about. It is grim, it is demonic, it is evil, it is a nasty book. Every page stinks. I was talking to someone about this in a Discord about how I'm reading a lot of Southern Gothic, it's just kind of hitting, I'm feeling it, I'm just boom, 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 hitting it all. I really need to talk about Sharp Objects eventually, because I love that book as well. And all I can think about when I read these books is how much everyone stinks. I say it all the time, and I like that. I like a stinky book where they're marching through the woods. It's 98 degrees, it's humid, they've got these boots on, they aren't showering, they aren't shaving, they're probably covered in pimples, their crotches have to smell awful. That's all I can think about, man. So Outer Dark is not only one of the best books of the year, but this is a booklet that I will read again and again. I very much see myself reading this in the next 2 years or so. I've been begging my wife to read it. I mean, it is just so damn good. And Cormac McCarthy's prose, I've got to be one of the dumbest people in the world to talk about prose, is breathtaking. It is just breathtaking. There are segments where I read a paragraph and I read it again, and I read it again, and I read on, and then I go back and I read it again. There's a few paragraphs that are just like so heart-wrenching. So like, I'm not into poetry, but that's poetry, man. I remember I was showing a student Blood Meridian, and the opening paragraph, I just started reading it, you know, not really like I hadn't read the book in a year or so, and I'm just reading it. There is the boy, and I'm like, oh my God, look at this. This is poetry. Shakespeare, who? You know, and Cormac McCarthy is maybe our Shakespeare. Maybe. That leads me to two books, which would be Blood Standard and Black Mountain by Laird Barron. These were recommended because whenever I search, so there's a few pieces of fiction that I'm always trying to find something like it, and there is nothing. One of them would be Berserk. I've searched high and low. There's nothing like it. One of them would be the plot context of the new versions of Doom about hell being a real place that is coming to Earth to take, like, I like that, and I've yet to find anything like that, you know? And finally, True Detective Season 1, which I think is, you know, it's not a hot take to say. It's probably the greatest 8 episodes of any television show of all time. But on top of that, it's got so much about the underground, conspiratorial world of the 90s and that, you know, that American wasteland of serial killers, corruption, collusion. You know, it's the greatest 8 episodes of all time. And I'm always trying to find a novel like this. Like, there's got to be some type of long form novel that has the same type of cynicism, but also scope and character and grittiness and, you know, plot threads. And this is one of the books that comes up a lot. They're, you know, neo-noir, hard-boiled detective novels about Isaiah Coleridge, who is a, like, Polynesian gangster, and he, you know, goes around and does stuff, and he gets involved in hard-boiled stuff. And it's just, like, I read these 2 books, and they're fine. They're 2.5 out of 5 stars. They're a 50%. It's a B-, you know? It's fine. People really like these. But as I read it, I just think they're just so bloated and dull. Outer Dark, 220 pages of some of the most mind-gripping brutality that I could not put down. You know what I mean? Finished that book in 2 good bathroom sittings. I always say 2 good shits. I don't read in the bathroom, for the record. These books, you know, they're, you know, 400 page, some odd, you know, modern books. And there's just so, you know, I wind up reading whole sections and I'm just like, what the hell is going on? Like, why am I reading any of this? I'm reading Red Sheep by James Ellroy. And that is like, I was reading these books and then I read that and it's like, boom, 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 like punch to the fucking face. And Blood Standard and Black Mountain, whole sections recapping voicemails, whole sections talking about going to get gasoline or something for the car. Like, I mean, it's just so bloated and it's just so do something. And there's no teeth involved to me. And people, like, I mean, I was recommended these books as like, these are some real horrific, wild, out there, dark books. And I did not get that at all. Blood Standard, it opens up in Alaska, and I wish the whole book was set there. I love Alaska as a setting. I've never been there, but I've read a couple books about Alaska, and I always love Alaska. But within, like, literally 35 pages, they're out of there. And the first 100 pages of Blood Standard is this whirlwind of the character just kind of doing a lot of stuff. It feels like a whole book is just in the first, like, 80 pages, and it's like, that would have been a better book. Like, I would have rather read that. Like, that book had, like, all of the murder and action took place in that first 80 pages. This is like a common thread, actually, of a lot of neo-noir, whatever the hell the genre is. Books that I read are kind of like this, where all the setup to introduce you to the character is monumentally more interesting than the rest of the book. Like, it happens over and over and over again. And Walter Mosley's King series, I forget the names of the books, but that's another one where in the first, like, 50 pages, we meet the character, he cheats on his wife, the woman he cheated with winds up being a gangster, he winds up in prison, he's assaulted by the prisoners and the guard, he spent 3 years in prison, he gets hardened, he becomes a killer, then he gets let out to go and become a detective. And it's like, that would have been a better book. But going back to Blood Standard, he winds up in upstate New York on a farm. And, you know, and there's just like this long setup of him meeting the owners of the farm, meeting their daughters, the daughter gets kidnapped. Then he takes it upon himself to go out and find whoever kidnapped her. And then it's just him activating video game cutscenes. Knocks on this door, meets this person, they dump a bunch of stuff, leave. Then there's like wide black holes in the book where he just kind of wanders around, meets people, has these not very deep, not very interesting philosophical conversations about this or that to take up time, and then rinse and repeat. The final 50 pages, I want to say, are the big action set piece where we all, but then it just keeps going. It's got that thing where the book ends and then it keeps going for another 40 pages, and I'm just like, dude, this character is not that interesting. I don't understand these characters in these hard-boiled books that are hard-boiled characters who are actually kind of like softies, kind of like dorky softies. Wow, I just realized I'm wearing the ugliest shirt of all time. Usually I try to wear a nice shirt, but it's Saturday and I'm wearing my Saturday clothes. But anyway, but I finished that and I was like, all right, and there was a lot of, I'm not gonna lie, there was a lot of skimming, right? I'm just looking, I'm looking for keywords. I'm like, he's still just talking to this person about literally nothing. And this is another thing that was in the King books by Walter Mosey, where all of his friends are so outrageously skilled and talented and connected where there's never really a problem. It's literally like, how are we gonna get up the mountain? Well, my buddy owns a jetpack store. Let's get that jetpack. Like, it's so ludicrous at certain points. To not ludicrous, but not engaging. Okay, so I was like, all right, that wasn't my favorite read ever. B-, I guess. It was functional, and everyone was like, Black Mountain. Black Mountain's the horror one. That's the messed up one. So I'm like, all right, let me read it. Isaiah Coleridge is now a full-blown PI. So I'm sorry, dude, all the teeth are taken out. He actually tells in the early parts of the book where he's hired for the job that he's going to do, he even tells the guy, he's like, look, I'm a PI, I can't do much illegal stuff anymore. And it's like, good job, like, neutering your book, like, right out the gate. And again, I'm reading James Ellroy, okay? The jungle juice is pumping. My gun is, like, riding to my hip and hot with burning lead as I'm reading James Ellroy. I'm reading the darkest crime that I can find. And then I pick this up and it's like, whoa, hold on, buddy. I'm kind of a normal guy now, even though I'm a big, tough Polynesian gangster. It's like, all right, dude. It again opens with him talking about his mentor, who's this like Baba Yaga type of evil, hitman who's got hundreds, if not thousands of bodies, who waxes poetic about the meaning of life and the cost of life and the worth of life. And he's got all of these ways to murder. And it's like, that's a book. That's a good book. No, that was the first 20 pages. And then we just flash forward to New York. We recap the first book for a good 20 pages. And then we're just in Isaiah's life. And he's got a girl, and her girl's got a son, and they got a dog, and he's going to go and be a baseball dad now. And then he gets the job, which is to hunt down this mentor of his, this killer, who might still be alive, might not be. And then there's all these illusions that this guy might be a ghost. He might be a demon. He might be a this. He might be a that. No, he's not. Scooby-Doo. Like, it just wound up being very toothless. And I just didn't feel any danger. I didn't feel any, there is a section in one of the American Underworld books, I believe the second one, The Cold 6000, where Pete Bondurant is on a boat and he's got to murder like 8 people or something. And there is, a solid 25 pages of, probably not that, probably 10 pages of him going through the boat and murdering these people, and windpipes are cracking and his heart is racing and knives are plunging and guns are going off. And it's like, I remember reading it, just go, oh my God, no, ah. And this book was pop. I would recommend this to my mom. This was like a very, it was just a mom book, in my opinion. I wanted to like it, and I hate being so negative, but I gotta be me, right? I just did not like this book. Again, it's a B- if you're into, but it brings up this bigger thing of like, what happened to these evil books, man. Like, where is the evil? Where is the teeth? Where is the, don't want to say nihilism, but like, I'm reading a hard-boiled crime book. I want to read about hard-boiled crime. It reminds me of The Many Saints of New York, the Sopranos movie, which was a giant hunk of dog shit. The Sopranos is one of the greatest TV shows of all time, top 3. And, you know, the one thing that new viewers will always say is like, wow, I can't believe how funny it is. But it's funny in that way of like, these are, you know, I have to turn to my wife all the time and say, these are the bad guys. The Sopranos is about the Sopranos is about the bad guys in their own little demonic realm. They are violent and brutal and racist and bigoted and sexist, and they abuse women, minorities, they abuse the system, they abuse poor people, they have no remorse for the string of bodies that's seen at the end of season 2, where they're going over all the lives that Tony has ruined, and he's just at this great party. It's gripping, like, you know, masterpiece cinema. And then The Many Saints of New York came out, and there's, you know, and it's about Dickie Moltisanti, Chrissy's uncle, and he's like this like soft civil rights inclined, you know, gangster who is trying to look out for his family. It's like, bro, fuck that. When Tony got killed, good. Like, Tony should be killed, you know, like that's the end of Tony's life, you know? And when that book, it's like, I just watched 6 seasons of these guys making the most racist jokes possible, and now Dickie has like a soft spot for the civil rights movement. And it's like, maybe these are the heroes that the modern day wants. I don't know. You know, I'm an old man, like I'm 40. Even if I'm not old, I know what old is going to be like. And part of being old is not understanding young people, I suppose. But maybe these are the characters people want. People want criminal, gangster, mafioso, Polynesian hitmen who go to their, you know, girlfriend's son's little league game or something like that. Like, it's so stupid to me, and I just didn't like it. So there's my rant. I'm sorry. This was probably the worst video of all time. If you like it, let me know. Let me know what videos you want to see. I want to review. I've got a lot of books I want to talk about going forward. So thank you very much.